Hello, in this video I'll be reviewing the upcoming DLC, which includes the Sunken Temple subzone and the new character Tulah. Couple of caveats. Number one, there'll be spoilers in this video, and number two, my review will be through the lens of high madness. This is what we have on the docket, let's get into it. First things first, some balance changes. In my previous video I commented on how punitive the new Madness 18 is. Injuries are permanent and cannot be removed anywhere. That has been changed now. Instead, its injuries cannot be removed in towns, so you could get rid of them in campsites, you could get rid of them from a card remove from a corrupted reward, for example. I think this will be a very welcome change, and this modifier is now less unfun than it used to be. Next, let's talk about nerfs. Now, usually my nerf color is red, but this time it's green. Why can nerfs be a good thing? Well, this time it's to some problematic enemies, namely the Rust King. The scaling of Rust Volley has been significantly toned down. The King's Presence instead reduces the cost by 1 instead of 2 and gives -1 speed as well. And then our favorite enemies, the Captain's Presence Yellow, is now only single target instead of all heroes. My guess is that they'll still feel fairly oppressive, but for sure this will be a welcome change for all players. So let's talk about the new character, Tulah. If you recognize the name, it's because we fight her as the Spider Queen in Aquafall, and my understanding of the lore is that she's now been liberated and is free to fight on our team. First, let's look at the starter item, which is a pet cocoon. All resistance is +4%, and then every turn we cast Creepy Noise, which deals 5 mind damage, applies 2 Insane and 2 Sanctify. Next, the passive, Broodmother. At the start of combat, shuffle 1 Spiderling into each hero deck, not dissimilar from Yoga's Meat. Spiderlings target the front monster. You can draw a card as a free cantrip, deal 9 pierce, heal yourself for 30% of the damage done, and apply 2 poison. Now we started with the pet and the passive Broodmother because both are augmented by Tulah's abilities, so keep that in mind as we go through the level ups here. Starting with the right hand side, where the level 2 is Premature Hatching, an extremely strong level 2 that for the next 3 spells, you'll get plus 20% damage, and when you play those spells, you get 2 Eggshell. It's a double hit, so I think this is a very, very good level 2. The Eggshell is targetable, deals 3 mind, applies 3 poison, 3 insane. Note that once you've played that 3rd spell, then the hatching goes away, and you lose the plus 20% damage bonus. At level 3, we get Mental Scavengers. We get +1 insane charges, +1 poison, and we replace the Spiderling cards from the Broodmother passive with Mental Scavengers, which deals mind damage predicated on the size of the Vanish pile. Additionally, if you had the Cocoon Pet by default, or you bought Lianti, which I'm not sure why you would, because it gets replaced anyway, at level 3 I think it's a waste of money, but if you did, then they're replaced with the Mental Scavengers pet, and instead of getting the Creepy Noise that we just showed from the original pet from Cocoon, you're casting the Mental Scavengers card every turn. Instead, again, mind damage predicated on Vanish pile, similar to Deja Vu. The level 4 is Pendulum, another very strong card. When we cast a skill for the next 3, you get 3 powerful, 1 evasion, and you put Hypnotism into your hand, which is an AoE mind, deal 8 damage, and apply 4 insane. This will play very well into cards like Fanaticism, because evasion blanks the Fanaticism, and so you can kind of pop off, do a fade, do an Expected Prophecy, do a Fanaticism, proc this, get some energy, and deal 3 AoEs to the enemies. And for the level 5 Webweaver, very unique ability. At the start of your first turn only, apply 6 insane, 6 poison, and 1 shackle to all enemies. Now while they're shackled, they'll deal 30% reduced damage, and shackle is instead removed at the end of the turn instead of at the start. And then when it is removed, they suffer 2 slow. Now quite a lot to digest here. I do have a couple of thoughts about this ability. Number 1, as you know, you get level 5 kind of in and around the twins fight. You'll have it for a couple of hallway fights, and then you have the final bosses. And against the final bosses, Handshook summons the clones, and as far as I'm aware, the clones are immune to Shackle. So on the one hand, it is pretty cool ability. On the other hand, the critical fight, it's good on Handshook himself. I believe he's susceptible to Shackle, but the fact that it doesn't work on the clones is kind of annoying. My second minor gripe with this ability is usually Shackle drops off at the start of the turn, but instead this is fundamentally changing it so that it drops off at the end of the turn, which I'm okay with, except I've been a big champion for changing Rocket Boots on Ninukill such that Fast drops off at the end of the turn. And the reason I was given why that isn't necessarily a good change is because Fast usually drops off at the start of the turn, so moving it to the end would be kind of counterintuitive. But then we're doing exactly that with Shackle on Webweaver, so I don't see why we couldn't do that, for example, on Rocket Boots on Nenukil. I think it would make him much, much better to play. Anyway, I acknowledge it's a bit of a tangent, just a minor gripe. Very unique ability, nonetheless. So let's talk about the left-hand side. The left-hand side is geared more towards healing. As you can see with the level 2, Holy Hatchery Batman, there's a ton of value in this card. The next 2 spells gain 1 Blessed and 1 Powerful, which of course benefits from perks if you perked accordingly. And shuffle 2 Sacred Weaver into your deck, as well as reduce the cost of the highest cost healing spell in your hand by 1. Now a Sacred Weaver is targetable on any hero, it's free, you draw 1, heal X, where X equals your draw pile, and Dispel Sanctify. Incredible amount of value in just 1 card. Now level 3, we get Temple Lurkers, which is very similar to the right hand side, except this time it's Sanctify +1, and instead we'll be replacing the Spiderling cards from Broodmother with Temple Lurker, as well as if you have the Cocoon or Leanti pet, that's instead replaced by the Temple Lurker pet. The Temple Lurker card is holy damage instead of piercing, and you heal for plus 60%, which is actually quite a lot of sustain across the team. Remember, one of these gets shuffled into each hero's deck, and so between application of Sanctify as well as healing yourself for 60% of the damage, it is quite a lot of sustain across the team. Level 4 is Cleansing Prayer, where we'll get Dispel for days. It's Heal Done +7, and then for the next 3 healing spells, you Dispel 3 on self, and put a Dispel Magic into your hand, so you get up to 3 of these for free. Dispel for days, they cost 0 and they vanish, and as we all know in High Madness, Dispelling status is very, very crucial to survival. At level 5 it's the Spider Queen, and you upgrade Temple Lurker or Mental Scavenger if you went down the right hand side from Broodmother into their corrupted versions, which you can see the screenshots of here on the right hand side of the screen. And then if you have the Temple Lurker or Mental Scavenger pet, then those are corrupted. Again, the screenshots on the right. One thing to note is that unlike Harley on Sylvie, when you corrupt these pets, they are not immortal, so they will still succumb to Handshook's pet killing spell on turn 2 in High Madness, and so just keep that in mind. And so those are Tulah's abilities. What about her character card? It's a skill which targets a hero. You can discover 3 of these cards and place 1 on top of the hero's deck. I know it says your deck in the wording, but I'm pretty sure it's the hero's deck. And you also grant 1 fast, so if you've perked accordingly, you can give 2 fast too. I think this is a pretty cool card, and if I was playing Tulah as a support or a healer, then I would definitely keep it in the deck. If I was playing Tulah as a carry damage, I'd probably take it out. So let's go through the starting deck, which I think is fantastic. We have 4 Ray of Hope, 3 Dawnlight, 2 Bog Hill, 2 Clarity, 2 Deja Vu, 1 Omen of Peril, and of course the character card. So how can you build Tulah? I think there are a few options here. Number 1, Holy Carry. Shard permitting, this is what I would leave Act 1 Town with, and I'd go Premature Hatching for the plus 20% damage, and the Eggshell, still great, even though it's mind damage. Benefits from Bless. I'd go Temple Lurkers, and then Pendulum, then Webweaver. Here's what the deck might look like a little bit later in the game. Build number 2 is support for true OTK style. The fact you can get up to 4 Clarities, because there are 2 in a starting deck, is incredible. And Omen of Peril can fetch Benediction out the deck as well, so I think our starting deck is fantastic, as well as Spider Hatching for additional speed control. Really, really good. That being said, I wouldn't take either the level 2 or the level 4, and just remove them from the decks, and it's really at your discretion what level 3 you would go with. And here's what the deck might look like, leaving Act 1 Town. And then similarly, as we transition to the late game, Divine Power, Divine Guidance, Amplify, Fanaticism, usual suspects. Really good support build, I think. And build number 3, more of a healer in a conventional comp rather than OTK. Here's an example deck leaving Act 1 Town, but if you don't have enough shards, then instead of flash heals, you can just keep the Ray of Hope. Obviously, spend according to your own economy. I still think Clarity Inspire is great, regardless of whether you're playing support or a healer. And then I don't think you actually need that many healing spells. Benediction, a Prayer of Healing, a flash heal or 2, a Ray of Hope or 2, and you're probably in a good spot. One of the things that I'm mindful of is not to oversaturate the deck with healing spells. I think you can probably get away with this suite of healing spells for the early game. And then as you transition to later in the game, again, Divine Power is a great card. Mass Dispel, even though we do get a good chunk of Dispel from Cleansing Prayer, sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. And Holy Hatchery, obviously, in the deck as well. Now, I think all three of these builds so far are really solid in High Madness. But let's talk about number 4, Mind Carry. Now, if you really, really want, you can try this maybe alongside Nesglade. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's definitely possible. Is it optimal? Is it good? Probably not, but sometimes people just like to play jank. So if I was playing Mind Carry early, this is what my deck might look like leaving Act 1 town. And then here's what it might look like a bit later on in the run. So that's Tulah. Next, let's talk about the Sunken Temple, which as you can see here is a subzone in Aquafall. It's the purple rift, and then we pop out just down here, same place where we pop out when we've gone into the cave. The Sunken Temple has this kind of Aztec Mayan theme, looks really, really cool. There's 2 levels, and you can go downstairs, either of these nodes, I believe here, that I'm highlighting on my screen. And then once you go downstairs, you either come out here, that you can see that I'm highlighting on the screen, or alternatively here if you took the other route. So there's a lot of mix and match possibilities for pathing, even though it's one subzone. I think there's a lot of combinations that you can explore. A couple of cool things you can do. Firstly, there's a new pet, Rocky. To unlock Rocky, first you have to go to the Quarry node. I believe in the Sunken Temple, and there's going to be an event there called the Frozen Vault. And once you're there, you can either choose Gustav's options, Maluka's options, or steal a construct. And then from there, you can head to the Hatchery node, and I believe you unlock Rocky. And then this is what he looks like, corrupted. A few other items that stood out to me, one of which is Blowgun, which is +2 poison charges, and then twice a turn, whenever you play a small weapon, you get a free poison dart that goes into your hand. So I think any small weapon build, Tholes, even if you're playing Gustav, I think this is great. You just get an extra 2 instances of damage. Another weapon that stood out to me is Spear, not least because you can actually get this in Act 1 town. And on the first turn, you shuffle a free Impale, which is a chain 1, and deal 11 piercing damage into your character's deck, which I think is actually very, very strong. If you're buying this on a scout and you've perked, for example, Sharp improves pierce damage, then this would be a really nice free damage card in the deck. Next, on the armor slot, let's talk about the masks. Now, depending on what choices you make in the Sunken Temple, the boss that you fight is going to be different, and the rewards are going to be different. So you might get the Mask of Anger, the Mask of Joy, the Mask of Tolerance. All of them are propped by being damaged by others, which is not great because you want to be proactive as possible. But they do give pretty good resistances, and the abilities are really good. For example, Mask of Joy, recover 10% HP and gain 2 bless, or 3 if you perked accordingly. Really, really good. Each of them can proc thrice, 3 times per combat. But by far, in my opinion, the strongest is Mask of Tolerance. If you've perked Evasion, if you get hit, then you obviously blank the next 3 attacks, and then you get hit again, and then you dodge the next 3 attacks, and then you get hit again, you dodge the next 3 attacks. There's 9 damage instances that you dodge because of Master of Tolerance. So if you're playing conventional instead of OTK, and you have a tank, or if you play a scout and you've perked Evasion, this is so ridiculous, in my opinion, in terms of defensive item. And then in the potion slots, you also have one of each feather. I'm not going to go through how to get all of these, but an extra charge and shuffling some rains into the deck if you really, really need it. Personally, I don't think these are that great. I think the Mask of Tolerance is really, really good though. So let's summarize, starting with the positives. I think Tulah's a pretty unique character with a couple of viable builds in High Madness. I'm looking forward to playing her. At first glance, the subzone has pretty cool design where you can go to a lot of different paths, and I really like the aesthetic as well. As I've mentioned a few times, I think Mask of Tolerance is really, really good in High Madness and will get better the longer you go through your run. If you perked Evasion, being able to dodge 9 attacks is ridiculously good. And then I'm pretty glad that some of these oppressive mechanics, the permanent injuries and the Captains and King's Presence have received a nerf, thank God. They're really, really not fun to play against in conventional comps, and so ironically it just pushed people to OTK more, which is not how everyone would like to play the game. Now, in the spirit of being balanced, we'll go through a couple of reservations too. The first couple are not necessarily to do with the DLC itself, but for me personally, the replayability of the game lives and dies on the card pool and the synergies. And I think in the last 2 years, we've had maybe like, I don't know, 10, 15 cards, and so no new cards in this patch It's a little bit disappointing, but I feel like I've been saying this now for like 18 months. Please give us some more cards, because I really would like to keep playing the game. And then similar tune, I think Scourge, Rust, Zeal, a lot of these mechanics are very surface level. So I mean, I would love to see a bit more exploration, a bit of a deeper dive into some of those mechanics rather than the surface level that we see currently. And in a similar vein, more perk options, more synergies would be very, very well received, I think, from the player base and add to the replayability of the game. I know that there are some modders in the Discord that are doing this, but it'd be good to get some official recognition and some perks added into the game. So look, these are more broad reservations. Some things I've been saying, I feel like, for a couple of years now. I still am really, really interested in the game and will continue to play it, but would do even more so if these could be addressed. As it relates to the patch specifically, a couple of things. The first one is just QC and polish. At least the version that I'm playing, and apologies, I will retract this if the live version is different, but the version that I'm playing, there's actually quite a few spelling mistakes throughout, so you kind of lose a little bit of the immersion just noticing a lot of quality control issues. Second is the items, maybe outside of Mask of Tolerance, are kind of okay, but nothing that's really run-defining, in my opinion. And thirdly, I touched on this earlier, but I think the level 5 abilities of Tulah, the left-hand side, you corrupt the pet, and then they can still die to Handshook. And then the right-hand side, Handshook's clones are largely immune to Shackle, so I don't have a couple of little reservations about the level 5 abilities, but nothing material at the end of the day. So look, hopefully this was a helpful review. Thank you for tuning in. As always, I personally am really looking forward to diving into a few runs with Tulah the Spider Queen, trying out a few different builds. And thanks for watching, take care, and good luck in your Across the Obelisk runs.